Yeah, there's definitely some
Just
other
the
life out
numbers
there.
alone
Yeah,
feels like there's
right.
got to be something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What about you? You think so?
Yeah, I do. I think just mathematically, it can't just be life here. I mean, even if we're talking about unintelligent life, like maybe microbes or bacteria or
Right.
something
Okay.
on
Yeah,
another
that counts
planet.
too.
But
So,
but I actually think that there is intelligent life out there.
oh, okay.
Hey man, how's it going?
Hey, I'm good. How are you today?
I'm doing good.
Good, good.
You like my shirt?
Oh, nice. Yeah,
Occupy Mars?
yeah, yeah, yeah. We need to send some people there.
You know, actually, I wanted to ask you, do you believe that there's life out there?
Life in the universe?
Yeah, like other than on Earth.
I do. I don't think. I mean, aside from religious beliefs from some people, which we won't get into, not today.
Sure.
But yeah, there. How vast the universe is. Yeah, there's definitely some
Just
other
the
life out
numbers
there.
alone
Yeah,
feels like there's
right.
got to be something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What about you? You think so?
Yeah, I do. I think just mathematically, it can't just be life here. I mean, even if we're talking about unintelligent life, like maybe microbes or bacteria or
Right.
something
Okay.
on
Yeah,
another
that counts
planet.
too.
But
So,
but I actually think that there is intelligent life out there.
oh, okay. Um, do you think there's life on Mars?
Um,
Whether intelligent or not.
well, I definitely not intelligent on Mars. But do I think there's any type of like microbe or anything? Maybe, but I would say that the chances are very low. Mars's atmosphere is very thin and it doesn't have the magnetic field that we have that protects us from like cosmic radiation. So I think it's a pretty inhospitable environment,
Yeah.
but that doesn't necessarily mean that life won't find a way, to quote Jurassic Park here.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, we could find it, but I think we if we do find it, it'll be in the form of like bacteria or single-celled organisms or
Okay.
something like that.
So I have an interesting question theory type thing, because I know some about our space exploration we've done. I know that we've sent probes to Mars. I don't know all the terms,
Sure.
but I know that we've sent kind of like one rover with a digger to like scoop up some dirt.
A couple, actually, yeah.
Yeah. But how far down were we able to go?
Well, it depends. There are some landing craft that have been on Mars that aren't rovers, that are just stationary, but they run experiments on wherever they landed. And then there are a couple rovers that are basically the size of like an SUV. There were a couple of rovers like the size of like what I would say like a four-wheeler or a riding lawnmower or something. And then way back in the 90s, there was a tiny one the size of like a remote control car.
Okay.
But most of the rovers drive around and they have the ability to like shave down rocks or take samples from like the surface. But I believe a couple of the landers, I think there was one that went several meters deep. It had a like a probe that drove itself into the ground. But now we found a lot of things that would be, or I should say, that show evidence that life could have existed on Mars, but we haven't found any actual life.
Yeah. Okay.
Although we did find a Mars rock in Antarctica. You know about this?
No, I don't know about this.
So this was back in, and I'm not sure. I thought I wrote it down. But this was back in the day where, like we'll find asteroids and stuff, of course, on Earth. And this is a similar situation. So something must have hit Mars and blasted part of Mars up into space. And then eventually it hit us. So we don't know when it got here.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing about the Mars rock was that it showed what looked like small multicelled organisms, but like fossils. So now the question is was that rock contaminated by being on Earth? I think they were kind of looking at the leaning towards the answer of no, that it was contaminated on Mars, and that those microbes proved that Mars used to support life.
Okay.
But it's hard to say. I think right now the evidence says maybe. But what about like alien abductions or alien UFOs? Do you believe in any of that?
I don't think so.
I mean, because we've had a pretty long history of it. I think the first case in the United States was Betty and Barney back in, I think it was like in 1961. And they were, I believe, in New Hampshire.
Okay.
And they told this fantastic story of they were in their car and they saw lights and they pulled over. And then they have this whole abduction story, which was widely publicized, like in the papers. And I think there's even, wherever this happened in New Hampshire, there's even a plaque there that says, this is where Betty and Barney were abducted.
Yeah.
But
were they ever seen again?
they were, they were, and they. I'm not sure. I know that books have been written about them. I'm not sure if they wrote any books, but there's definitely been a lot of interviews. I think there was a movie. But you don't believe in any of that?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I definitely believe life is out there, but I don't think that it's coming for us. And I don't think that they're abducting us. I believe that if there is some type of life out there and they were able to reach us, it wouldn't be that. It would be either one of two things. It would either be a full-on invasion because maybe they felt our planet was threatened or like threatening, and they were coming to whatever, grab resources or something.
Sure.
Or that it was a one spaceship that came here, and whatever, flew by our planet, maybe entered our atmosphere, but then left.
But what about all the stories of abductions? I mean, it was very big in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. It's trailed off a little bit since then, but
probably for good
hundreds
reason.
and hundreds, maybe even thousands of people have said that they've seen these things and described them. You don't believe in any of them?
No, I don't think so. No.
Now, what about the Nazca lines?
I'm sorry, what?
It's there are these huge lines.
Is that?
Or I think I'm saying it wrong. It's pronounced Nazca lines.
Okay.
But here, I'll show you some images here. If Google would cooperate.
Okay.
Images. There we go. There are these massive lines. See, this one looks like a spider.
So, okay. So people want to say this is from aliens?
Well, here's the thing.
Those
Didn't know.
look pretty cool.
Yeah, this one looks like a little alien being or something. And then I think there's another one that, it looks like a huge runway. No, these were carved into rocks. And we didn't actually know about them until we had the ability to fly. And as we flew over them, we looked down and we saw these and we thought, how could people at the time even see these? So who are these for?
Yeah.
You think they're for their gods, or you think they're for their alien visitors?
Basically, so
this was done in Peru, by the way.
So basically, we got aliens coming to Earth, tagging up Earth.
Well, no,
because
my interpretation was that aliens came down and visited them, and then they the locals praised them and worshiped them. So then they drew them a gift.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't.
You don't believe in that?
Yeah.
What about even?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say even further back than that. What about all the comments in the Bible?
What? There's no comments about aliens and
Yeah, yeah. I don't know which Bible you're reading, but I think it's in Ezekiel 15. Is it? I wrote it down here, and it says, "As I looked at the living creatures, I saw a wheel on the ground besides each creature with its four faces. This was an appearance of a structure of wheels. They sparked like topaz, and all four looked alike. Each appeared to be made of wheels intersecting wheels. As they moved, they would go in any of the four directions that the creatures faced. The wheels did not change direction as the creatures went. Their rims were high and awesome, and all four rims were full of eyes all around." Now, back then when they wrote this, it's kind of hard to say what they were looking at, but nowadays, doesn't that sound like a flying saucer? It was wheels made of wheels, and the wheels didn't turn, and they moved in any direction, like a big flying saucer in the sky.
okay.
You're not.
I'm not buying that, but okay, but say that's correct. Yeah. So where are you going? I just don't. But go ahead.
Okay, well, how about this? Ezekiel 22, spread out above the heads of the living creatures that looked something like a vault, sparkling like crystal, and then awesome. Under the vault, their wings stretched out towards each other, and their wings covered their bodies. When the creatures moved, I heard a sound of their wings, and they roared like rushing water. Doesn't that sound like a modern jet engine or?
It kind of does.
None of this. I mean, why does it sparkle like crystal?
I don't know. I think that
Doesn't that sound like Windows?
I think you're gonna have to look at previous passages to find out what that's referencing. But I don't like. I believe there's life out there. I don't believe, because the nature of the Bible, that it would be written in the Bible that there's aliens.
I mean, how do you know that they weren't just writing down what they saw? Maybe they thought that it was God doing something, but now that they're describing what we would call a UFO, maybe they were talking about a UFO. You don't think so?
I don't. Listen, I'm fascinated by life and aliens.
Sure.
Life on other planets and aliens. But yeah, I don't think that. I don't think that. That made its way into the Bible and that they're describing a UFO.
Well, there's been other big ones. Have you ever heard of Travis Walton?
I have not. Who's this individual?
So Travis Walton, I believe he was a logger. And back in the 70s, him and his friends were coming home from work, and they saw a light out in the woods, and everyone started running towards it. And Travis was out front, and then they saw a beam of light hit Travis. Then they all started to run. Then they started screaming for Travis. Then the light went away, and Travis was gone. Then they looked for him. They couldn't find him. They went back home. They were freaking out. And 2 days later, Travis shows up naked in the neighboring town, freaked out, telling a story about how he was abducted by aliens and experimented on.
Okay.
He actually wrote a book that was turned into a movie later on. I think the book was called the Travis Walton incident, or
is the movie Fire in the Sky?
The movie is Fire in the Sky. Did you just look it up?
No. I watched that movie when I was younger.
Yeah, it was kind of a freaky movie.
Yeah, it was. But oh man, I don't know.
But you're not buying into that
I'm
either.
still not buying that.
Okay,
I feel like aliens have way more important things. They're not gonna come to Earth, abduct somebody, and then release them. I don't know. Like, if we made it to another planet that had life, is that what we would do? Would we abduct somebody, bring them back, or can you see that as a scenario?
Well, who knows what their society is, or their culture is, or what they feel is acceptable behavior. You know, we're talking about an
Actually,
alien society.
I kind of take that back because the nature of humans seems to be. I guess I could totally see humans abducting something and trying to rip it apart and tear.
You remember what Hawking said? A visit from aliens is probably not going to go well for us. Just look throughout our history. Anytime like a superior technological group of people meet a more maybe not as technologically advanced group of people, the one group always screws the other group over.
Yeah, yeah,
And so if somebody has the ability to fly here from another planet and we don't have that capability yet, we might not be prepared for whatever they're bringing.
yeah.
But now the government actually heard so many of these stories that they decided to investigate and opened up a project called Project Blue Book. I think from like the 50s to like almost like 1970. Did you hear anything about this?
No, I'm not familiar with Project Blue Book.
Okay, so this was a study of UFOs and abduction stories, and they wanted to find out if any of this was real. And it was actually ran out of Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio.
Okay.
And there's a lot of what should I call it? Conspiracy theories about the Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. A lot of people say that the crash in Roswell, New Mexico, that they took the alien bodies to Wright-Patterson. I don't know if any of that's true, but there has been other people said that Wright-Patterson Air Force Base had dead bodies of aliens, and they described them as basically human-like, but with big heads and big eyes, and that they were shorter. They weren't as tall as us. You know, kind of the classic alien you'd see like in a movie.
Yeah.
But the Project Blue Book was actually released to the public, I believe, as one of these, what do you call it, Freedom of Information Act?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And so, you know, so many years afterwards, they asked for it. And I don't believe they ever approved anything. I think they concluded that it's not happening. But then recently, you know, we've seen all of this, the U.S. military is saying that, well, they're not calling them UFOs, they're calling them UAPs, that they exist.
Okay.
And they released those couple videos into the media. I saw them like on the news. I don't know. To me, it just feels like a grainy photo again.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's a grainy video. But if we're all walking around
yeah,
with high def,
that's right.
cameras in our pockets, why can't we get why can't we catch them in 4K?
Yeah, yeah. You know, it's almost the same thing as like Bigfoot and the dog people.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like, you know, how is it not solved by now? Everybody has a cell phone. So,
Yeah, I don't know. I felt like when that came out and they were saying, "Yep, we see things and we don't know what they are," but you guys are not the only ones seeing it. The government's seeing them too. I thought, well, that doesn't necessarily mean it's aliens.
yeah, yeah. Okay, so hold on. I got to backtrack just a little bit.
Okay.
So going back to Mars,
Yeah.
the reason I was asking about the Mars rover and how far down it dug is because I have a theory that there's life underneath the surface of Mars.
Oh, wait a second. So you're saying that,
yeah.
that you don't believe that aliens are visiting Earth or abducting people, but you believe that they're living underneath
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
surface of Mars?
Yeah, I mean Mars
Like
is,
mole people.
no.
Sorry,
yeah,
not people. Mole aliens.
Yeah, sure, if you want to call them that. But listen, there's probably we can't dig down there. There's no way we're going to be able to get a large enough device to kind of drill deep down into the surface. But I feel like there's probably life under the surface of Mars and like civilizations under there. What do you think about that?
I don't believe that. But I was just looking up on the computer there, and I'm probably saying his name wrong. In fact, here, let me put it over here. how would you say this guy's name right here?
Giovanni Scapolini. I don't know how to
Yeah,
pronounce
it
that.
sounds Italian. But he would look through his telescope back in the early 19th century, and he would see these lines on Mars. Now, the telescopes of that day are not the same as the telescopes of our day.
Right.
Plus, we've sent probes and satellites there and actually taken images from orbit. But at the time, he would see these lines on Mars, and he thought that they were canals. And that's where a lot of this whole, instead of saying alien, saying Martian, because he's like, no, there's people on Mars. They dug canals.
Okay.
So you think maybe the canal people just moved underground?
Yep. I wouldn't call them the canal people, but whatever. Yeah. But I mean, you can't say like what evidence do we have there's not people living under the surface?
Well, I mean, a lot of the experiments that we're running on Mars, through the rovers or the landers, or even things we've done from in space, in orbit, show no evidence of that. And some of the experiments are things like seismometers and looking at Mars quakes, also doing full scans of the surface. You'd think that there would be some evidence of a civilization, either through being able to feel them under the ground or even just shooting video. Even now, we have video with audio, so we know what Mars sounds like.
But Mars is a huge planet, so I'm not saying
Sure.
under all like that life would be all
Sure, the amount of Mars we've explored is not
right.
a lot.
Yeah, so we could just be in the wrong section.
Okay.
Like
I can't believe you shot down all my other stuff. I even read you some Bible passages. All of that was crap. But these underground Mars people, you're
and I don't know why
behind.
I don't know why you think that sounds ridiculous. Like you can listen. We've had a previous discussion about like plumbing systems and everything, and like our sewers.
Sure.
And like we like the sewer system in like this country is similar to like having an underground city. Okay,
It is. You're right. When you're on the sidewalk in a major city, there are many layers of things going on underneath you.
Yeah. So it could be the same thing, just on another planet. And they don't have any motivation. Like if there's life, there's life on Mars, and they're living underneath the surface. They don't have any motivation to come to the surface because they know that there's, it's not sustainable up there. Is why they moved underground.
Well, I will tell you, at least from the limited science that we've done, and I'm only saying limited because I feel as if we're in the beginning. It's not like we've even been in space for very long. I mean, when was this first stuff launched into space? In the 1950s?
Yeah, 50s.
And so, 70-some years that we've even had the ability? So I'm only saying limited because I feel like we're at the beginning.
Yeah.
But from what we can see so far, we haven't found any evidence of life in our solar system. Although I will tell you, since our definition of life is basically what we know it as on this planet.
Right.
And so we know what it takes to sustain or even create life on this planet. So a lot of what we're looking for is similar attributes in other places. And I remember when I was a kid, they were talking about how Earth was very unique because it had all of this water. But now that we've had more time to explore our solar system, we now know that Earth may not even be the place with the most amount of water.
Yeah.
There is a moon, and I want to say it's either around Mars or not Mars. I'm sorry, either around Jupiter or Saturn. I want to say it's around Saturn.
Yeah, isn't it Ganymede?
Ganymede, yeah. And it looks like it might contain more water than Earth. Also, there's Titan, which has an ice layer, but we think that it may have a liquid layer underneath the surface. And it could be like these extremophiles that live in the depths of our ocean underneath immense pressure, and they live around these little thermo vents.
Yeah.
There could be life there.
So you think that there could be possible microbial life on a moon for Saturn or Jupiter? You know, whether and you're kind of shooting down Mars people living under the surface.
Well,
dude,
I think that there could be even more than microbial life under the surface of those moons, but you're making it sound like a cartoon here with like I'm like
Well, no.
envisioning like the mole guy from like The Simpsons,
yeah, but
Mole Man.
no, but I think you're taking it that way. But okay, but look, in all seriousness,
Wait, are you saying intelligent life, or are you saying just
no. I would
just life under the surface of Mars?
Intelligent life. I would
Okay.
say that. Like, is that what? That can't be too far of a stretch. I mean, I don't know. I'm just saying that I feel like there could be a good possibility that possibly something happened, to kind of push Mars just out of the habitable zone, like Earth is.
No. Earth and Venus and Mars are all in the habitable zone.
Okay. So, but Mars doesn't have an atmosphere.
It has
or
a very thin one. It's like 1% of ours or something.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna stick with that. There's possible life under the Mars surface,
And the surface is irradiated, so maybe that lends some credence to your idea. They had to move underground.
and they knew this. That's why they did so.
Well, have you ever heard of a guy named Bob Lazar?
I heard the name, but what did he do?
So I think it was in the 70s and 80s. He had done a couple kind of cool things. One, he put a jet engine in a car, and he was on local papers out where he lived, and just kind of I guess more of a do-it-yourself kind of nerdier kind of guy, like somebody I would probably have a great conversation with. Like, let's go out in the garage and build some weird stuff.
Yeah.
But he also claims that he worked for a super secret military facility called S4.
Okay.
So you've heard of Area 51, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so Area 51 is a dry lake bed called Groom Lake. But there's another lake just south of Area 51 or Groom Lake called Papoose Lake. And he said that all the secret military testing of like airplanes and new weapons and stuff does happen at Area 51 on Groom Lake.
Right.
And all of this stuff about aliens and stuff being out there, that's all crap. But the government kind of plays into or leans into some of those conspiracy theories because it keeps people's idea or minds off of what they're really doing,
Right.
which is like developing new aircraft and new weapons.
Yeah.
But then he said that all the aliens and the spacecraft are actually at S4, which is just south of Area 51.
Okay.
And he claims he worked there, and he tells stories of them having several different alien craft, some of them being on the planet for a very, very long time, and they dug it up almost like they dig up old ruins nowadays, and that they operated on antimatter. And he said the antimatter ran off of an element 115. And at the time he said this in the 80s, there wasn't a 115 on the periodic table.
Yeah.
But he said it existed. And the thing is that nowadays there is an element 115 on the periodic table.
Yeah, and what is
so
it?
it does exist.
Okay.
Well, I don't know if it necessarily has the attributes that Bob was talking about, but who knows? There could be another isotope version of element 115 that that may have these abilities. But Bob also said other things like that there was hand scanners that
At Area 51?
that they would use, or S4 to get into S4, which at the time sounded like far out technology, but nowadays
Yeah, we
hand
have.
scanners used all the time.
Yep.
And the type of hand scanner he talked about was ones that actually measure the length of your bones in your hand, and those things have been around since the late '90s, at least for consumer use. And he drew a picture of what one looked like, and there were some secret facilities, not Area 51 or S4, but other military facilities that were being decommissioned, and some of the what do I say, equipment in those facilities were decommissioned and declassified and thrown away. And somebody snapped a picture of their hand scanner, and on the Joe Rogan podcast, they showed it to Bob, and he goes, they're like, hey, I just want to show you this picture that you drew, and then this picture that we found. Is this, they look alike?
Yeah.
Is this it? And he's like, oh my God, I thought I'd never see one of those before. So even though the U.S. government says that he didn't work there, he has shown up on yearbooks for there,
Okay.
and he's shown up in directories. So he had a phone number there, and he describes things like, well, he definitely knew people there. He knew names, and he describes things like hand scanners and stuff. So the question is if he's lying, where does the lie begin? Or is he telling the truth all the way? But if he's telling the truth all the way, then they have alien spacecraft.
Okay, so there's a few questions I would have is, number one, I would look at the protocol for people who work at Area 51 and S4, because I do know that they have to be like flown in,
Yeah.
like, and then, but what would the like retirement plan look like for that? Are you just able to go home? Because I feel like after seeing so much classified information, knowing like that Area 51 and S4 are that classified, and that no regular citizen can just walk up there and get in, that they probably have a different plan for when you're ready to get out of the company.
Yeah, I'm not sure. But the thing I find interesting is that everything he says, with the exception of the aircraft and the secret base that's there that we don't know about, the other stuff is all slowly coming true.
Yeah.
So do you put any,
I don't know. Possibly.
do you believe in any of that?
Possibly. I don't know. I know that our government would be up to a lot of different inventions and discoveries that they would not let the American public know, or even the rest of the world. So, I believe that they know a lot more about, some things than they let on. But I don't know. I still just don't know if I believe we have captured any alien life forms.
You were talking about the employees being flown into Area 51. They're flown in from Vegas, so they live around the Vegas area, and then they go to the airport there, and then they fly out for work. Have you ever seen any of those aircraft?
No.
So me being a nerd and having to sometimes go to conventions out in Vegas, it was a couple times early in the morning I saw them, and they're just they're big white passenger jets, and they have a red stripe going down the side of them, and they don't have any markings. It doesn't say like United or Delta or anything, and they operate out of a terminal that's on the side of what is it, McLaren Airport? So they're not in the same terminal that you would use, but all the locals just call it Janet Airlines, which stands for just another non-existent terminal.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to say that it doesn't exist when you can be in like the MGM Grand, look out the window and see it.
Yeah.
So it exists. And so they go, yeah, it exists. But the government doesn't say where they're going or what they're doing.
Yeah.
But there have been leaked photos from inside these aircraft, and they basically look like economy class aircraft from like the middle of the 80s. They're nothing special.
Yeah.
And I really doubt they're not getting like a drink or like peanuts or something.
Yeah, yeah.
They're told to go to their seat, and in 45 minutes we'll be at work.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and the other thing that's interesting too is it a program like FBI agents have to keep their identity secret, so people who work at Area 51 and S4 probably cannot tell if they're allowed to go home, they can't tell their families what they do because that's putting everyone in jeopardy.
I'm sure that there's some level of security like that, and they were also probably looking for certain types of people. I was watching a documentary about the SR-71, and they said that the SR-71 pilots, they wanted to make sure all of them were married with children, because if they were ever shot down or if they ever got the idea of defecting, they wouldn't take our super secret spy plane and go land in, let's say, Russia and go, hey, I want to defect. No, because you have a wife and kids
Right.
at home,
Yeah.
and we know that you're going to come back home.
Yeah.
So no bachelors flying them.
So here's what I think what should happen is we need to find somebody who's qualified to go to Area 51 or S4.
No.
And we need to
You sound like that thing that happened on the internet a couple years ago when they're all like, let's storm Area
no,
51.
no, not like this. Like somehow
okay. I thought that's where you were going.
No, somehow we have to get somebody to infiltrate this area under the guise that they do have a family, but they don't, and we have to equip them with some super secret
No,
so
I would
that
say
we-
let's not do that.
because
I'm going to give the same statement that the military said when everyone on the internet was like, "We're going to storm Area 51," and they basically just put out a statement that said, "Don't."
yeah.
There were all those signs that say "deadly forces
Yeah.
forces authorized." I don't think that they need to say anything besides that.
But
Okay.
you just kind of wonder, what's going on down there that you have to be, married with kids and all that you can't be single and, so it's interesting. We need to get an infiltrator.
Well, have you heard of and I forget what they call it. There's a term for this, but basically, I mean, if you look at evolution and the fossil record and just things that we've seen and observed on the planet, it's not fully filled out, but we're getting a decent shot at the picture of how it could have all happened. I mean, sometimes we have to be a little bit of a detective and say, well, if we found the dead body in the house and the knife was sitting right there and it had blood on it and the person was killed with a knife and your fingerprints are on the knife, we think you did it. Now, technically, we didn't see you do it. But all the evidence points that way. So there's a lot of evidence that says that life started here, or at least evolved here, I should say. One of the things that is a theory about how it started here, though, is if it started on another planet, like let's say it started on Venus or Mars, and then something happened to migrate it over to Earth. And what I mean by that is not like aliens or intelligent life, but
right.
we know that certain microscopic organisms can endure being in space. There have been tardigrades that have been sent up in space. Now it looks like they go dormant, but when they're given what they need to live back on the planet, they spring back to life.
Okay.
So that could have happened here. And my question is whether that actually happened, like life started on another planet and then migrated here, or life started here. Did it just happen once? Or did it happen multiple times?
Okay. So are you saying, so for one, like say if there was like an asteroid or something that crashed into Venus and then that ejected material landed on Earth and then that kind of, okay. I could.
Because the reason why I'm asking if it happened more than once, either life started here more than once, or came from another planet more than once, we have things like octopuses. So the thing is that we can kind of trace ourselves back to us all starting from the same point because we share DNA. I mean, like, I think it's something like 50% of our DNA we share with a banana. So we know that there was a common single-celled organism at some point that we have, a common ancestor to. But with octopuses, it's only like 69%, which is pretty low.
Yeah.
And so the question is did life start multiple times on this planet? Like maybe in pool A it started, and then in pool B it started, and then we evolved from there, and maybe there was some crossbreeding? Or did it start from asteroid A and asteroid B, and they hit the planet, maybe not even at the same time, and started a little bit of life over on this side of the planet, and then started a little bit of life over on this side of the planet?
Okay. Okay, both of those options seem pretty viable. I could go with that.
You buy into that?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, obviously, you had to start somewhere, but I mean, I would throw in a third mix that possibly there was, life happened. Maybe there was a catastrophe on Earth, so like an asteroid or something, that wiped out that existing life, but also brought new life. So at the same time that there was some destruction, there was also a rebuild or a rebirth of life also coming in. But I don't know. But both of those sound, pretty viable.
Well, I want to say as our technology gets better and better, we not only have the ability to send probes out and explore space, whether it's just our solar system or more eventually, but we are also building bigger and more powerful telescopes, whether those telescopes are on Earth or in space or maybe someday on the moon. We're seeing more and more of our universe.
Yeah.
And, it feels like in sci-fi, the way it works is we get to a certain level of technology and then aliens will stop by and go, hey, you're about to travel faster than light. And so we figured before you go out there and see us, we're just going to stop by and say hello. But my thought process is what if we spot intelligent life out in the solar system through one of our space telescopes? I mean, there's a Hubble Space Telescope, which is famous, but there's also the the Chandra Space Telescope. Have you heard about that one? And then most recently, there's the Webb, the James Webb Space Telescope. And have you ever heard of this thing called the Cardiff scale? Cardiff scale. I'm probably saying that name wrong. I'm terrible with names. But the point is that he came up with a scale of 4 types of intelligent life, and he based it all off of what their level of technology is, and their level of technology with the ability to consume or use energy. So a type 1 civilization on the scale would be defined as someone who can harness all the energy that reaches their home planet. So we're not even a type 1 yet.
Okay.
But if we could take, let's say, all the cosmic radiation and all of the energy from the sun and anything else coming in to our planet and the planet itself, if we could use all of that, then we would be a type 1. But a type 2 would be a civilization that's capable of harnessing all of the radiation and energy from its own star. So imagine being so technologically advanced that you could use a star as a power source and harness all of the energy from the star.
Yeah.
And then a type 3 civilization would be someone or a civilization that is able to use all of the energy from its own galaxy.
Oh wow.
So that would be somebody who that would be a group that could harness
Yeah.
all the stars and all the planets and all the forces of gravity and things
Yeah.
like that. But now, and then they said a type 4, I think and I'm not 100% sure which way he was going with this one, but he says is impossible. I believe he's saying all the known energy everywhere, but a type 4 wouldn't exist because then we probably wouldn't exist because they would have removed our energy. Okay, well, whatever. But my point with all of this is that he's saying that that he believes that if we increase our consumption of energy by 3% a year, that we may obtain type 1 status in anywhere from 100 to 200 years. But we won't obtain type 2 status for a few thousand years. And if we ever was able to survive long enough to get type 3 status, maybe anywhere from 100,000 to 1,000,000 years. But the thing is that we know that our solar system is like 13.8, or I'm sorry, the universe is 13.8 billion years old. And we know our planet is billions of years old. At least I think our last estimate is like 4.63 billion years old. So the question is there could have been entire solar systems that arose and maybe don't exist anymore before our planet ever came about, which means there could be intelligent life that's billions of years old. So they maybe would have obtained one of these levels.
Yeah. Okay.
And the question is with all the new space telescopes, you think we might see them?
I don't know.
Because imagine this. Imagine if they were a type 2 civilization and they could harness all the power from their own star.
Right.
There's another guy that talked about this, and he said that we might be able to look up in the sky and see them doing it. And he talked about a great sphere that would be built around the star, or even
Like
rings.
a black hole.
Well, or even rings around the star that would be harnessing the energy and then storing it or sending it to whatever these aliens or civilization is using them for. And everyone called it a Dyson sphere. So if there are intelligent species out there and they've been around for millions of years, I just have the feeling that sooner or later we're going to look up and we're going to watch a star go out. Or we're going to be looking at a part of space that science and math says should be full of stars and planets. But when we look at it, there's nothing there.
Okay.
Because if they were using all of the energy, not even light would escape.
Yeah. Right.
So it would just look like a dark area to us.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. It's kind of terrifying, but interesting to think about.
That somebody could be so advanced to use the
Yeah,
energy
yeah.
of a star.
Yeah. But however, I do feel like, because when people think about life outside of the universe, most people feel like that humans, like in Earthlings, are kind of like the top of that, but we're pretty efficient, like inefficient beings. Like when you come to think about it, we need sleep, we need food. Like there's all these emotions that, we have, where you probably have another being that doesn't need all those.
Maybe they've evolved to a state where they don't need it, or maybe their technology assists them somehow.
Right. Yeah. So, pretty interesting. And we definitely have, made a lot of strides and a lot of advancements with our technology and everything. And we have, brilliant individuals, but there's way more to be learned and, that's out there. So I definitely don't think that, we are the top of it. So there, I can understand that there's probably a way more advanced life form out there.
Well, I feel like we might be on the cusp of discovering something, just for the fact that we listen for radio waves and we look for lasers for laser communication. We're looking for anything abnormal, like maybe a star going out that didn't go supernova and didn't go black hole, and it just turned its light off, and it's like, why did that happen?
Yeah.
And since I just feel like we're maybe at the beginning, I mean, if you think about it, the Wright brothers took their first flight in 1903, and then we spent, I'm saying we as in humans, it was the Russians sent Yuri Gagarin into space in 1961. I mean, we just took flight just a little over 100 years ago. I think in the next maybe 50 years, we might have the answer. I mean, if we think that life is so prevalent, that it can spawn almost anywhere, then we should be able to see something.
Yeah, we should. We should. And you're right. I feel like we will continue to make advancements. So we probably will see something. The problem is, like, what do we do with all that? You know?
I would say hello.
But,
know?
like, I mean, it's almost like, what's the end game type of thing? I mean, are we going to make friends? Like, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to sound ridiculous, but
Yeah,
but
I
what
think
is
that would be an end game.
Yeah.
I mean, it's sort of like traveling the world and going to far off civilizations and experiencing, what they have to offer. And, I just feel like it makes you a more well-rounded person to understand where other people come from and how they live their lives. And I think an alien species would be along the same lines.
Yeah, I wonder, because I wonder about things like, about like weapons and violence, and if that is a natural characteristic, of other life forms.
Well, maybe. There's definitely some terrifying sci-fi, but the other thing is that we have to think about, everything has like a beginning and an end, and so there could have been intelligent life that evolved just like we did, and then even had the ability to go out into space. But then something happened to them where they went extinct, and it could have happened a long time ago, and we just happened to live in a different time from them.
Yeah.
Or there could be some event that tends to happen when a solar system gets so old, or a civilization gets to a certain point, like a huge filter that would wipe out things once it got to a certain point. And so maybe there is life out there, but most of it is extinct, or maybe is yet to evolve into something sentient. There was a guy, Frank Drake, that came up with the Drake equation, which is just basically an equation to try to figure out how much life could be out there. But I think he had a similar notion to Dyson, the fact that they both looked up to the sky and they said, if this is full of life, then how come we don't see it? But I think we might be so early in looking for it. We might just be on the cusp of actually having the technology to see it.
Yeah. And I also feel like, as vast as the universe is, I mean, possibly we are we're not close to any other life. I mean, that's a possibility too, that there are other galaxies, that have planets that can, have life. And so you can have, 2 or 3 planets, but the way we're set up, we're the only life, in our solar system here. So I think that's a good possibility also. I don't know how much people have thought about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's so vast out there that I saw Neil deGrasse Tyson talk about it, how that there are so many planets and solar systems and galaxies out there that there's probably another planet and solar system full of people that are exactly like us, like our doppelgangers.
Okay.
For the fact that the numbers that they're dealing with, says that it's possible. I mean, you're talking about almost an infinite number of galaxies, and then how many stars do those galaxies have, and then how many planets do they have, and then how many are in the habitable zone. So it's hard to say. And the other thing is as we're advancing in our technology, we know how far away a lot of these other solar systems are, and we know that they're light years away, and we know that according to Einstein that we can't travel faster than light, but that doesn't mean that there aren't ways around that. At least mathematically, it should be possible to create like a wormhole. And I've heard people talk about things in sci-fi like warp drive and stuff, and saying that at least mathematically that should work. Now, we don't have those technologies yet. And where I'm going with this is maybe as our technology advances, we'll figure out that those aren't possible for a whole nother reason, something that we just don't understand yet.
Yeah.
So maybe there is other life out there, and maybe it is intelligent, but maybe for some unforeseen reason that we don't know of yet, we're never going to be able to visit it, and we may or may not be able to communicate with it.
Right. Yeah. Very
Seems
good.
kind of sad.
Yeah. I see a single tear from your
I mean, I would be excited to be like, oh, even if they found
Yeah.
microbes on Mars, I'd be like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
But I think the worst would be is if we knew it was all out there.
Yeah, but
we
we just
couldn't
can't.
do a damn thing about it.
Yeah. I mean, it's possible. We're our only neighbor. That's it. It's like, only one out there living on the island by yourself.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I mean, yeah. I mean, unless I got a solution.
Okay.
We have to dig on Mars. We will find our neighbors. We just have to dig, and we gotta.
All we need is one of those tunnel boring machines on Mars.
Yes. We gotta hurry up and get it there. Would it take 6 months to get to Mars?
I think you're right around there. Yeah.
Yeah. We can do this, and then we'll find some friends.
Right.
All right. Well, good talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
I'll look for those underground
yeah.
mole men on Mars.
All right.
All right. Bye.